The thunderous crack of a pistol firing into the air silenced the crowd gathered outside Emmett's General Store in Coyote Creek, a dusty speck on the Arizona Territory map in 1885. Dahlia Evans stood trembling but defiant, her blue calico dress stained with trail dust and her chestnut hair falling loose from its pins as she faced her two brothers. "I said no, Theodore. That land is mine by Pa's will, fair and square." Her voice carried across the wooden boardwalk where curious townsfolk had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Theodore Evans, the elder of her two brothers, lowered his smoking pistol and fixed her with a cold stare. At 38, he had their father's build but none of his kindness. Beside him, Frederick, younger by 2 years, shifted uncomfortably, avoiding his sister's accusing gaze. "A woman has no business owning property, especially not 200 acres of prime cattle country," Theodore spat. "Pa wasn't in his right mind when he wrote that will. Frederick and I are selling to the railroad, and you'll take your third and be grateful." Dahlia's hands balled into fists. "That land was Ma's dream before she died. Pa left it to me because he knew you two would sell it first chance you got." Frederick took a step toward her, his voice lowered in what he probably thought was reason. "Be sensible, Dahlia. The railroad's offering good money. You're 22, unmarried. Take your share, move to San Francisco like you always wanted." "I'm not selling," she said, chin raised. "Not 1 acre." From the edge of the crowd, a tall figure stepped forward. The townsfolk parted as Adam Blackwell moved between Dahlia and her brothers. At 27, he cut an imposing figure broad-shouldered in a dust-covered denim jacket, trail-worn boots, and a Stetson pulled low over eyes that had seen more of the frontier than most men twice his age. "Seems to me," Adam said, his voice carrying the slight drawl of Texas, "that if the lady says the land is hers by legal right, then that should settle the matter." Theodore's face darkened. "This isn't your concern, Blackwell, family business." "Made it everyone's business when you fired that pistol in the middle of town," Adam replied evenly. "Miss Evans has the right to her property same as any man." Dahlia glanced up at the stranger with surprise. She recognized him vaguely, the cowboy who'd ridden in 3 weeks ago and taken work at the Sutton Ranch outside town. He kept to himself mostly, though Emmett had mentioned he had a way with horses nobody had seen before. Theodore took a threatening step forward. "You're new around here, cowboy. Don't know how things work. My sister is an unmarried woman who can't possibly manage a spread that size. We're acting in her best interest by taking what's legally hers." Adam's hand didn't move toward his holster, but his stance shifted subtly. "That's an interesting definition of best interest where I come from." Sheriff Mills finally pushed through the gathering crowd. "What's all this commotion? Theodore, put that gun away before somebody gets hurt." Theodore holstered his weapon reluctantly. "Just having a family discussion, Sheriff." "A family discussion that requires gunfire." The sheriff looked from Theodore to Frederick, then to Dahlia and Adam. "Miss Evans, everything all right?" Before Dahlia could answer, Theodore interjected. "Sheriff, we need your help. Our sister is being unreasonable about Pa's will. The land should have been split 3 ways." Sheriff Mills sighed deeply. "Theodore, we've been through this. I was there when your father's will was read. He left the Evans homestead to Dahlia free and clear, nothing illegal about it." "It ain't right," Frederick muttered. "Right or not, it's legal," the sheriff replied firmly. "Now I suggest you boys cool off. And no more gunplay in my town, understood?" As the brothers skulked away, shooting venomous glares at Adam, Dahlia felt the eyes of the entire town upon her. Her cheeks burned with humiliation. This was exactly what she dreaded, becoming the center of town gossip. Her family troubles aired like laundry on a line. "Thank you, Sheriff," she said quietly. Sheriff Mills nodded. "You know they won't give up easy, Dahlia. Your pa's land is worth a small fortune now that the railroad's coming through." "I know," she replied, lifting her chin, "but it's my land, and I won't be bullied into selling." As the crowd dispersed, Dahlia gathered her market basket and turned to Adam. "I didn't need your help, Mr. Blackwell." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "No, madam, I don't reckon you did. But where I come from, 2 against 1 isn't what you'd call sporting." Despite herself, Dahlia felt a reluctant smile forming. "Well, thank you anyway. Though you've probably just made things worse for yourself. My brothers don't forget slights easily." "I've handled worse than 2 land-hungry brothers," he replied, tipping his hat. "Can I walk you home, Miss Evans? Those 2 might be waiting." Dahlia hesitated. She'd prided herself on her independence since her father's death 6 months ago. The proper thing would be to decline a single woman accepting escort from a man she barely knew would set tongues wagging. But the thought of encountering her brothers again made her decision easy. "That would be kind, Mr. Blackwell. It's a fair distance out to the homestead." "Adam," he corrected gently. "Mr. Blackwell was my father." "Then you must call me Dahlia," she replied, surprising herself with her boldness. They walked in companionable silence through town, past the curious glances of townspeople still lingering on porches and in doorways. Dahlia was acutely aware of his presence beside her, the steady rhythm of his boots on the hard, packed dirt, the faint scent of leather and horses that seemed to cling to him. "You've caused quite a stir in Coyote Creek," Dahlia remarked as they left the last buildings behind. "People say you rode in from nowhere and tamed old man Sutton's wildest stallion in an afternoon." Adam's laugh was brief but genuine. "People talk too much in small towns. The horse just needed understanding, not taming." "Is that your specialty? Understanding wild things?" His eyes met hers briefly. "Sometimes the things people call wild are just misunderstood." The conversation flowed easier than Dahlia expected as they walked the dusty road toward her homestead. Adam spoke little of himself beyond mentioning he'd grown up in Texas and had been drifting through the territories for several years. Instead, he asked about her land, her plans, listening with genuine interest as she described her father's dream of a horse breeding operation. "Pa always said our valley had the perfect mix of grazing land, water, and shelter for raising quality horses," she explained, warming to her subject. "He'd started selecting breeding stock before he fell ill. I aim to see his dream through." "Ambitious," Adam noted, "but not impossible. Good horse flesh is always in demand out here. Try telling that to my brothers. They think a woman can't run a ranch. Your brothers strike me as men who care more about quick profit than building something lasting." When they crested the final hill and her homestead came into view, Dahlia felt the familiar swell of pride and heartache. The 2-story wooden house her father had built stood tall against the backdrop of rolling hills, the barn and corrals to one side, and beyond them the valley stretching green and promising in the late afternoon sun. "It's beautiful," Adam said quietly. "Yes," Dahlia agreed. "Worth fighting for." At the gate to her property, she turned to him. "Thank you for walking me home, Adam." He tipped his hat. "My pleasure, Dahlia. I'd best get back to the Sutton place before dark." He hesitated. "Your brothers will try again." "I know," she said with a sigh. "They've always been stubborn, but since Pa died, it's like they've changed. The railroad money is all they can think about." "If you need help, I'll manage," she interrupted, not unkindly. "I've been managing for months now." Adam studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "I don't doubt it. But everyone needs a friend sometimes." As she watched him walk away, Dahlia felt an unexpected pang. She had few enough friends in Coyote Creek. Most of the town viewed her with a mixture of pity and disapproval. A young, unmarried woman trying to run a ranch alone flew in the face of convention. Adam Blackwell was the first person in months who'd looked at her and seen capability instead of foolishness. She turned toward the house, unaware that this chance encounter would soon draw her into a storm that had been brewing since her father's death. Inside, Dahlia lit the oil lamps as dusk settled over the valley. The house felt too large, too empty without her father's booming laugh or her mother's gentle presence. She prepared a simple supper, trying to push away thoughts of her brother's public confrontation. They'd never accepted their father's decision, but today marked a new level of hostility. A sharp knock at the door startled her from her thoughts. Grabbing her father's old shotgun from beside the door, she called out, "Who's there?" "It's me, Dahlia. Eliza Parker." Relief flooded through her as she unbolted the door to admit her closest friend. Eliza, the schoolteacher's wife, stepped inside, her normally cheerful face drawn with concern. "I heard what happened in town," Eliza said, embracing Dahlia. "Are you all right?" "Just humiliated," Dahlia replied, setting aside the shotgun. "Theodore making a spectacle of family business in front of half the town." Eliza followed her to the kitchen. "Everyone's talking about how that cowboy stood up to your brothers. Very romantic." "There was nothing romantic about it," Dahlia protested, feeling her cheeks warm. "He was being decent, that's all." "If you say so," Eliza replied with a knowing smile. "But that's not why I came. Joseph heard something at the saloon you should know about." Dahlia set down the cup she'd been filling. "What is it?" "Your brothers met with Judge Harmon this afternoon. They're filing a petition to have your father's will invalidated. They're claiming he wasn't of sound mind when he wrote it." Dahlia felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath her feet. That's absurd. Pa was perfectly sound until the pneumonia took him. The doctor can attest to that. Joseph says they've already lined up 3 witnesses willing to testify that your father was confused and easily influenced in his final weeks. "Paid witnesses, no doubt," Dahlia said bitterly. "With railroad money." Eliza reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "Joseph says Judge Harmon has scheduled a hearing for next week. If they succeed—" "They won't," Dahlia said firmly, though doubt gnawed at her. Judge Harmon was known to favor business interests, particularly when those interests aligned with the territorial governor's push for development. "Pa's will is legal. Sheriff Mills witnessed it. You need a lawyer, Dahlia, someone who can fight this properly. The nearest decent lawyer is in Tucson, and I can't afford to hire him." Dahlia pushed a strand of hair from her face. "I'll have to represent myself." Eliza's expression told Dahlia exactly what she thought of that plan. "At least think about it. This is your future we're talking about." After Eliza left, Dahlia sat alone at the kitchen table, her untouched supper growing cold. The thought of losing her land, her parents' dream, her heritage, was unbearable. But the law could be twisted by men with money and influence. She knew that all too well. The next morning dawned clear and cool, the kind of perfect spring day that made the valley look like a painting. Dahlia rose before dawn as usual to tend to the handful of horses and the small herd of cattle she maintained. Hard work kept darker thoughts at bay, at least for a while. She was mending a section of corral fence when she spotted a rider approaching. The familiar figure of Adam Blackwell came into view, leading a second horse behind him. "Morning," he called as he dismounted. "Hope I'm not intruding." Dahlia set down her hammer. "Not at all. What brings you out this way?" "Brought you something," he said, gesturing to the second horse, a sturdy bay mare with intelligent eyes. "This is Penny. Mr. Sutton was going to sell her, but I thought she might be more useful here." Dahlia approached the mare, who sniffed her outstretched hand curiously. She's beautiful, but I can't accept. She's not a gift, Adam clarified. I traded some work for her. She's good breeding stock, calm temperament, strong legs. If you're serious about starting a horse operation, she'd be a fine addition. Dahlia stroked the mare's neck, already seeing how she would match with the stallion in her stable. What kind of trade did you make? I'm building Sutton a new stable. It's a fair exchange. Something in his tone made Dahlia look up sharply. You're doing this because you feel sorry for me, aren't you? The poor woman who can't protect her land from her greedy brothers. Adam's expression remained steady. I'm doing this because I recognize a good horse person when I see one. And because I know what it's like to fight for something that's rightfully yours. The sincerity in his voice made Dahlia regret her sharp words. I'm sorry, it's been difficult. I just learned my brothers are trying to have Pa's will invalidated. Adam's brow furrowed. Can they do that? They're claiming he wasn't of sound mind. Dahlia led the mare to a water trough, needing something to do with her hands. It's a lie, but they've found people willing to support it. You need a lawyer, so I've been told. But good lawyers cost money I don't have. She turned to face him. I'll be fine. I can speak for myself at the hearing. Adam was quiet for a moment. When is it? Next week. Wednesday. He nodded thoughtfully. I know someone who might help. Used to practice law back east before coming west. I can't promise anything, but I could ask. Hope flickered briefly before Dahlia tamped it down. Why would you do that? You barely know me. Let's just say I've seen enough good people lose what's rightfully theirs. He paused. And I admire someone who stands their ground. Before she could respond, the sound of approaching horses drew their attention. Theodore and Frederick rode up to the fence line, accompanied by a third man Dahlia recognized as James Wilson, a surveyor who worked with the railroad. Well, well, Theodore called out, his voice carrying across the yard. The drifter's paying calls already. Moving fast, aren't you, sister? Dahlia strode toward the fence, Adam following a step behind. State your business, Theodore. You're not welcome here otherwise. Frederick at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. We've brought Mr. Wilson to survey the property. The railroad needs to finalize their plans. You have no right to bring anyone onto my land, Dahlia said firmly, and there will be no survey because there will be no sale. Wilson cleared his throat nervously. Miss Evans, the territorial authority has granted certain rights of way for the railroad's expansion. We're authorized to conduct necessary surveys. Not without the landowner's permission, Adam interjected, and Miss Evans has made her position clear. Theodore's gaze hardened as he looked at Adam. You're mighty invested in my sister's affairs, Blackwell. What's your stake in this? Just a citizen who respects the law, Adam replied evenly. Unlike some. Theodore's hand drifted toward his holster. Be careful, Drifter. You don't want to make enemies here. Stop it, Theodore, Dahlia said sharply. Mr. Wilson, I'm formally denying permission for any survey of this property. If you or anyone else trespasses, I'll report it to Sheriff Mills immediately. Wilson looked uncertainly between the brothers and Dahlia. Perhaps we should postpone until the legal situation is clarified. I don't want any trouble. There's no legal situation to clarify, Dahlia insisted. This land is mine. For now, Theodore replied with a cold smile. Enjoy it while you can, sister. The hearing will settle this once and for all. He turned his horse. Come along, Mr. Wilson. We'll return when the law is on our side. As they rode away, Dahlia felt her hands trembling with anger and fear. I'm sorry you had to witness that. Your brother has a talent for making threats without actually saying them, Adam observed. Makes me wonder what he's really after. Money, plain and simple. The railroad's offering more than this land would fetch in 10 years of ranching. She turned back toward the house. Would you like some coffee? Least I can do after you rode all this way." Inside, Dahlia busied herself with the coffee pot while Adam looked around the comfortable but simple interior of the Evans homestead. Family photographs lined the mantel, her parents' wedding portrait, Dahlia and her brothers as children, her father proudly standing before the newly built house. "Your father built all this?" Adam asked, studying a picture of the family in front of the half-constructed home. "Every board and nail," Dahlia confirmed, setting 2 cups on the table. "He came out here with nothing but my mother and a wagon full of dreams in '59. Started with a tent, then a one-room cabin. Built this house over 10 years, bit by bit." Adam sat across from her. "And your mother?" "Died when I was 16. Fever took her." Dahlia's voice softened. "She loved this place as much as Pa did, maybe more. She's buried on the hill overlooking the valley." "I'm sorry," Adam said simply. "Pa was never the same after. Threw himself into building up the ranch, as if he could fill the emptiness with work." She paused. "My brothers left as soon as they could. Theodore to try mining in Colorado, Frederick to work the cattle drives. They only came back when Pa fell ill." "Just in time to stake their claim," Adam observed. "They never understood why Pa left the land to me. They see it as an insult, I think. But I was the one who stayed, the one who learned every creek and hillock of this place alongside Pa." Dahlia took a sip of coffee, gathering her thoughts. "He knew they'd sell to the highest bidder first chance they got." Adam studied her for a moment. "What will you do if they succeed in overturning the will?" "They won't," Dahlia said with more conviction than she felt. "But if they did, I don't know, I can't imagine being anywhere else." "The friend I mentioned, the one with legal experience, his name is Marcus Hayes. Lives about 20 miles north of here now. Keeps to himself mostly, but he might be willing to at least give you some advice." "Why would he help a stranger?" Adam's expression grew distant. "Because he understands what it means to lose everything you care about to men who twist the law to their advantage." There was a story there, Dahlia sensed, but Adam's tone didn't invite questions. Instead, she asked, "When could we speak with him?" "I could ride out tomorrow, be back the day after with an answer one way or another." Dahlia nodded slowly. "I'd be grateful. And about Penny, I can pay you for her in installments." "No need. Consider her an investment in your horse breeding operation." Adam rose from the table. "I should head back to the Sutton place. Got work to finish before sundown." At the door, he turned back to her. "Bar your doors tonight, Dahlia. I don't trust your brothers not to try something." The seriousness in his tone sent a chill through her. "You think they'd actually harm me?" "I think men who want something badly enough can justify all manner of actions to themselves." He settled his hat on his head. "Just be careful." After Adam left, Dahlia went about her chores with a watchful eye on the road. The confrontation with her brothers had left her unsettled. Theodore had always had a temper, but there was something different now, a cold calculation that frightened her more than his outbursts ever had. As promised, Adam rode out early the next morning toward the North Country to find Marcus Hayes. Dahlia kept busy with ranch work, but her thoughts kept returning to the upcoming hearing and her brother's determination. By nightfall, she found herself jumping at every sound, the shotgun close at hand. She was awakened just before dawn by an insistent knocking. Grabbing the shotgun, she approached the door cautiously. "Who's there?" "It's Eliza." "Open up, Dahlia." Dahlia unbolted the door to find her friend white-faced and breathless. "What's happened?" "Your barn," Eliza gasped. "I was on my way to visit my sister in Bitter Springs. I saw the smoke from the road." Dahlia pushed past her and ran toward the hill overlooking her property. In the gray pre-dawn light, she saw wisps of smoke rising from her barn. Heart pounding, she raced down the hill, Eliza calling after her. The barn door was ajar, and inside, Dahlia found a small fire smoldering in the hay storage. She and Eliza managed to douse it with water from the nearby trough before it spread, but the message was clear: this was no accident. A kerosene lamp lay broken among the hay, one that Dahlia knew she'd never left there. "This was deliberate," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "They could have killed the horses." "You think your brothers did this?" Eliza asked, eyes wide. "Who else would benefit from frightening me?" Dahlia surveyed the damage minor, thankfully, but it could have been catastrophic if Eliza hadn't spotted the smoke. "They want me scared enough to give up. You need to tell Sheriff Mills." "And say what? I have no proof it was them." Dahlia kicked at a charred piece of hay. "Besides, the sheriff's one man. He can't watch my property day and night." "Then sell, Dahlia," Eliza pleaded. "It's not worth your life." "This land is my life," Dahlia replied firmly. "I won't be scared away from what's rightfully mine." But as the day wore on, Dahlia found herself constantly checking the horizon, startling at unexpected sounds. She kept the shotgun close as she tended to the horses and repaired the minor damage to the barn. By nightfall, exhaustion had settled deep in her bones, but sleep seemed impossible. The sound of hoofbeats in the darkness sent her heart racing until she recognized Adam's voice calling out a greeting. She opened the door, relief flooding through her at the sight of him dismounting in her yard. "You're back early," she said, setting aside the shotgun. "Rode through the night." He looked at her closely. "What's happened? You look like you haven't slept." Dahlia told him about the barn fire as she prepared coffee. Adam's expression darkened as he listened. "I should have been here," he said quietly. "It's not your responsibility to protect me or my property," Dahlia replied, though part of her was grateful for his concern. "Did you find your friend?" Adam nodded. "Marcus will help. He's coming to town tomorrow to look over your father's will and prepare for the hearing." He agreed just like that, without even meeting me. "I told him your situation." Adam paused, "and I told him who I really am." Something in his tone made Dahlia look up sharply. "What do you mean?" Adam sighed, removing his hat and running a hand through his hair. "My full name is Adam Blackwell. My father was Judge William Blackwell of the Texas Fifth Circuit Court. You're a judge's son." Dahlia couldn't hide her surprise. "Was," Adam corrected. "My father was killed 5 years ago. Shot in his own courtroom by men working for a land corporation he'd ruled against." His voice remained steady, but Dahlia could see the old pain in his eyes. "The same men later manipulated evidence to steal our family, ranched nearly 15,000 acres that had been in the Blackwell family for 3 generations. Adam, I'm so sorry. Marcus was my father's law clerk. He tried to fight the land grab through legal channels, but the deck was stacked against us. By the time it was over, I had nothing left but my horse and my father's pocket watch." He met her gaze directly. "So when I say I understand what you're fighting for, I mean it." Dahlia felt a new understanding of this quiet, determined man taking shape. "Is that why you've been drifting? Looking for somewhere to start over?" "Partly," he admitted. "And partly looking for the men responsible, 2 of them anyway. The 3rd I found in El Paso last year." The implication hung in the air between them. Dahlia studied his face, finding no trace of the cold-blooded killer. Such a confession might suggest only a man who had sought justice when the law had failed him. "Does Marcus know your brothers tried to burn down my barn?" Adam nodded grimly. "He says it strengthens your case, shows they're willing to use intimidation rather than legal means. If we can prove it was them," Dahlia pointed out, "we'll figure something out." Adam rose from the table. "But first, you need rest. I'll keep watch tonight." Dahlia started to protest, but exhaustion overwhelmed her objections. "There's a spare bedroom upstairs. You should get some sleep too." I'll be fine out here, he insisted. Go on, Dahlia, you're dead on your feet. For the first time in days, Dahlia slept soundly, the knowledge of Adam's presence downstairs easing her fears. She awoke to the smell of coffee and bacon, finding Adam in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Hope you don't mind, he said, gesturing to the stove. Figured you could use a hot meal. Mind, I'm grateful. Dahlia poured herself coffee. When do we meet Marcus? He'll be at the sheriff's office at noon. Wanted to review the original will first. They rode into town together, ignoring the curious stares of townsfolk as they made their way to the sheriff's office. Inside, they found Sheriff Mills in conversation with a lean, scholarly-looking man in his 40s. Dahlia, the sheriff greeted her. This is Marcus Hayes. He's been asking about your father's will. Marcus extended his hand. Miss Evans, Adam has told me about your situation. I'd like to help if you'll permit me. I'd be very grateful, Mr. Hayes, but I should warn you I can't afford to pay much. A slight smile crossed Marcus's face. Let's consider it a favor to an old friend, he said, nodding toward Adam. Now I've reviewed your father's will. It's perfectly sound, legally properly witnessed, clearly stated. Your brother's claim that he was not of sound mind is their only possible avenue of attack. He was as sharp as ever until the pneumonia took hold, Dahlia insisted. The will was written months before he fell ill. Do you have anyone who can testify to that? Besides Sheriff Mills, I mean. Dr. Collins attended him regularly and Reverend Taylor visited often. Marcus nodded. Good, we'll need their testimony. He opened a leather portfolio. Now about this fire at your barn. Any witnesses who saw your brothers in the area? None, Dahlia admitted. But who else would have reason to frighten me? Motivation isn't evidence, Marcus cautioned. But it does establish a pattern of behavior consistent with their attempts to force you off the land. The door to the sheriff's office opened and Theodore walked in, stopping short at the sight of Dahlia with Marcus and Adam. His eyes narrowed. Well, sister, I see you've hired yourself fancy legal help. His gaze shifted to Adam. Or perhaps your new friend is financing this venture. Mr. Evans, Marcus said, rising. Marcus Hayes, attorney, I understand you filed a petition regarding your father's will. Theodore's jaw tightened. And who's paying you, Hayes? My sister can barely keep that ranch afloat. My fees are not your concern, Marcus replied smoothly. But I should inform you that attempting to intimidate a witness such as starting a fire on Miss Evans' property could result in criminal charges. Fire? I don't know what you're talking about. Theodore's denial came too quickly, his eyes darting briefly to Sheriff Mills. Someone tried to burn down Dahlia's barn yesterday morning, the sheriff said gravely. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Theodore? Of course not. And I resent the implication. Theodore glared at Dahlia. Always were Pa's favorite, weren't you? Got him wrapped around your finger so tight he gave you everything while Frederick and I got nothing but debts to settle. That's not true and you know it, Dahlia shot back. Pa left you the mercantile interests in Tucson and Frederick the mining stakes in Colorado. You both sold them within a month of his death, because they were worthless compared to that land. Theodore's composure cracked. You're sitting on a fortune while Frederick and I have to scratch for a living. Mr. Evans, Marcus interjected, I suggest you save your arguments for the hearing, and I strongly advise you to stay away from your sister's property in the meantime. Theodore's face flushed with anger, but he controlled himself with visible effort. The hearing will settle this once and for all. Judge Harmon is a reasonable man who understands that land is meant for men who can develop it properly. With a final glare at Dahlia, he stormed out. Charming fellow, Marcus commented dryly. Sheriff, I'd like to request extra patrols near Miss Evans' property until the hearing, if possible. Sheriff Mills sighed. I'll do what I can, but it's a big territory and I'm just one man. I'll be staying at the ranch until the hearing, Adam said quietly. To help with repairs, he added, meeting Dahlia's surprised gaze. She hadn't expected this, but found herself nodding gratefully. I could use the help, she admitted. The truth was, she felt safer with Adam nearby, though she was reluctant to acknowledge how quickly he'd become important to her. Marcus spent the next hour preparing Dahlia for the hearing, explaining what to expect and how to respond to questioning. When they finally left the sheriff's office, Dahlia felt both better prepared and more anxious about what lay ahead. Your brother didn't deny starting the fire very convincingly, Adam observed as they walked toward the general store to collect supplies. No, he didn't, Dahlia agreed, but suspecting and proving are different matters. They were passing the saloon when Frederick emerged, stopping short at the sight of them. Unlike Theodore, Frederick had always been the quieter brother, more inclined to follow than lead. Dahlia, he said, awkwardly tipping his hat. His eyes darted to Adam with obvious discomfort. Frederick, she acknowledged coolly. Come to try burning down my house next, her brother's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Someone tried to burn my barn yesterday. Seems like quite a coincidence given Theodore's threats. Frederick glanced around nervously. I had nothing to do with any fire, Dahlia. You have to believe that. Something in his demeanor gave Dahlia pause. While Theodore's denial had been aggressive, Frederick seemed genuinely distressed. But you know who did, she guessed. Her brother's silence was answer enough. Why are you doing this, Frederick? This isn't like you. Frederick sighed, shoulders slumping. It's complicated, Dahlia. Theodore has obligations, debts that need settling. The railroad money would solve everything. So I'm supposed to give up my inheritance to pay for Theodore's gambling debts. Dahlia felt her temper rising. That's what this is really about, isn't it? It's more than that, Frederick insisted, lowering his voice. He's in deep with some dangerous men who don't take no for an answer. Adam stepped forward. What men, Frederick? Frederick eyed Adam warily. I've said too much already. He turned back to Dahlia. Just be careful, sister, and maybe consider that selling might be safer for everyone. With that cryptic warning, he hurried away. What was that about? Dahlia wondered aloud. I think your brother just gave us a clue about what's really going on, Adam replied thoughtfully. Let's finish our shopping and head back to the ranch. I want to talk to Marcus about this. That evening, as darkness settled over the valley, Dahlia sat on the porch with Adam, watching the first stars appear. Marcus had returned to his home to prepare for the hearing, promising to return the day before to finalize their strategy. Do you think Frederick was telling the truth about Theodore's debts? Dahlia asked, breaking the comfortable silence. I do, Adam replied. The question is, who are these dangerous men he's involved with, and how far will they go to get what they want? Dahlia shivered despite the mild evening. I can't believe Theodore would resort to violence even with his temper. Intimidation, yes, but actually harming me. We're family. Money changes people, Adam said quietly. So does desperation. They fell silent again, the chirping of crickets filling the night air. Dahlia found herself studying Adam's profile in the fading light, wondering about the path that had brought him to Coyote Creek at precisely the moment she needed help. Will you stay? She asked suddenly. After the hearing, I mean. Adam turned to look at her, surprise evident in his expression. I hadn't planned that far ahead. You said you've been drifting, looking for somewhere to start over. This is good country. Sutton speaks highly of your work with horses. Dahlia felt her cheeks warm, aware she was being forward. And I could use a partner who understands horse breeding if I'm going to make this ranch successful. A business partner? Adam asked, his voice carefully neutral. Dahlia met his gaze steadily. To start with. Something shifted in Adam's expression, a softening, a spark of possibility. I think I'd like that, Dahlia Evans. The moment hung between them, full of unspoken possibilities, until the sound of approaching riders broke the spell. Adam was on his feet instantly, hand moving to his holster. "Stay here," he said. Moving to the edge of the porch, 3 riders emerged from the darkness, and Dahlia felt her heart sink as she recognized Theodore at the lead. Beside him rode Frederick and a 3rd man. She didn't recognize a hard-faced stranger with a scar running down his cheek. "Evening, sister," Theodore called out, his voice carrying an edge Dahlia had never heard before. "Thought we'd pay a social call." Adam stepped forward, positioning himself between Dahlia and the riders. "You're not welcome here, Evans." Theodore's laugh held no humor. Bold words from a drifter. He gestured to the scarred man. "This is Mr. Reeves. He represents certain business interests that are very eager to see the railroad come through this valley." Reeves tipped his hat, a cold smile playing on his lips. "Miss Evans, I've heard much about you." Dahlia moved to stand beside Adam. "Whatever business you have can wait for the hearing, Theodore." "That's just it, sister. Mr. Reeves doesn't much care for legal proceedings. They're so unpredictable." Theodore dismounted, approaching the porch. "He prefers direct negotiation." "This isn't negotiation," Adam said flatly. "It's trespassing. I suggest you leave." Reeves remained mounted, his hand resting casually near his holster. "Mr. Blackwell, I understand you've taken a particular interest in Miss Evans' affairs. Very gallant, but this is a family matter." "How do you know my name?" Adam asked, tension evident in his stance. "I make it my business to know who might interfere with my employer's interests." Reeves smiled thinly. "Just as I know about a certain incident in El Paso last year involving a land speculator named Harrison." Adam went very still. Dahlia looked between them, sensing an undercurrent she didn't fully understand. "Dahlia," Theodore said, ignoring the exchange, "we're offering you one last chance. Agree to sell now before the hearing. You'll get a fair price, more than fair. Enough to set yourself up comfortably anywhere you choose." "And if I refuse?" Theodore's expression hardened. "Then Mr. Reeves can't guarantee what might happen. Ranching is dangerous work. Accidents occur." "Are you threatening me?" Dahlia asked, anger overriding fear. "I'm being practical. The railroad is coming through this valley one way or another. Better to profit from it than stand in its way." Adam's voice cut through the tension. "You should know, Evans, that Sheriff Mills is aware of your attempt to intimidate your sister, and Marcus Hayes has prepared a formal complaint." Frederick shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. "Theodore, maybe we should just wait for the hearing." "Shut up, Frederick," Theodore snapped. He turned back to Dahlia. "You have until tomorrow noon to decide. After that, Mr. Reeves will handle matters his way." He mounted his horse. "Think carefully, sister. No piece of land is worth dying for." As they rode away, Dahlia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "They wouldn't really, would they?" Adam's expression was grim. "I think your brother is in over his head with very dangerous people. And desperate men make reckless choices." He turned to her. "Pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight. I'm not running from my own home. It's not running, it's being smart." Adam took her hands, his grip firm but gentle. "Just for tonight. We'll go to town, stay at the hotel where there are witnesses. Tomorrow we'll talk to the sheriff and Marcus." Dahlia wanted to argue, but the memory of Reeves' cold eyes stopped her. "All right, just for tonight." They rode into town under a blanket of stars, the road silent except for the steady rhythm of hoofbeats. The small hotel at the edge of Coyote Creek was nearly empty, and the proprietor raised no eyebrows at renting rooms to Dahlia and Adam at such a late hour. "Try to get some sleep," Adam said as they stood in the narrow hallway between their adjacent rooms. "I'll be right next door if you need anything." Dahlia nodded, suddenly aware of how alone they were, how close. "Adam, what did Reeves mean about El Paso?" Adam's face grew shuttered. "He was letting me know he's aware of my past. The man I mentioned, one of those responsible for my father's death, I found him in El Paso. And he won't hurt anyone else," Adam said simply. "Get some rest, Dahlia." Alone in her room, Dahlia found sleep elusive despite her exhaustion. Her mind raced with the implications of Theodore's threats, the hearing, and the growing complications of her feelings for Adam. When she finally drifted off, her dreams were troubled by images of fire and faceless men on horseback. She awoke to urgent knocking. Opening her door, she found Adam fully dressed, his expression grave. "What is it?" she asked, instantly alert. "Sheriff Mills just rode in from your ranch. There's been a fire." Dahlia felt her heart drop. "How bad?" "The barn's gone. He and some men from town managed to save the house, but it was close." Dahlia dressed quickly, her hands shaking with fury and fear. Outside, Sheriff Mills waited with their horses. "I'm sorry, Dahlia," he said as they mounted up. "By the time we spotted the smoke, the barn was already engulfed." "The horses?" she asked, dreading the answer. "Got most of them out, lost 2 in the north stall." Dahlia closed her eyes briefly, grief washing over her. 2 horses gone, including, she suspected, the stallion her father had prized so highly. It was Reeves, wasn't it? Or someone working for him? "Can't prove it," the sheriff said grimly. "But I found this." He handed her a railroad company notice, a formal declaration of intent to survey the property. "Was tacked to your door." Adam's expression darkened. "They're sending a message. The railroad gets what it wants one way or another." The ride back to the ranch was tense and silent. When they crested the final hill, Dahlia gasped at the sight of her barn, or what remained of it. Blackened timber and ash were all that stood where the sturdy structure had been just yesterday. Neighbors and townsfolk were still there, helping to secure the remaining horses and clear debris. Eliza ran to embrace Dahlia as she dismounted. "Thank God you weren't here," her friend said, voice breaking. "When we saw the fire, we feared the worst." Dahlia surveyed the destruction, a cold determination replacing her initial shock. "I won't be driven away," she said quietly. "This is my home." Sheriff Mills approached, hat in hand. "Dahlia, I know you're set on fighting this, but maybe you should consider—" "Don't say it, Sheriff," she interrupted. "I'm not selling. Not to the railroad, not to anyone." "Then we need to make sure you're protected," Adam said. "The hearing is in 3 days. A lot can happen in that time." Marcus arrived shortly after noon, his normally composed demeanor giving way to open anger when he saw the devastation. "This crosses a line," he said, examining the charred remains of the barn. "Destruction of property, attempted intimidation of a witness, these are serious crimes." "Can you prove Theodore or Reeves did it?" Dahlia asked. "Not yet," Marcus admitted. "But this strengthens our case before Judge Harmon. It demonstrates exactly why your father wanted to protect this land from your brothers." They gathered in Dahlia's kitchen, Dahlia, Adam, Marcus, and Sheriff Mills, to discuss strategy for the days ahead. Outside, volunteers continued clearing debris and reinforcing fences around the remaining livestock. "I believe your brother Theodore is deeply indebted to whoever Reeves represents," Marcus said, spreading papers across the table. "Possibly the Southwestern Land Development Company. They've been buying up property all along the proposed railroad route." "Frederick mentioned Theodore had gambling debts," Dahlia recalled. Sheriff Mills nodded. "He's been spending a lot of time at the tables in Tucson. Word is he's in for thousands. So he needs the railroad money to save himself," Adam concluded. and these land developers are pressuring him to deliver your property." "That would explain his desperation," Marcus agreed, "but it doesn't excuse criminal activity." He turned to Sheriff Mills. "Can you spare a deputy to watch the property until the hearing?" The sheriff shook his head regretfully. "My only deputy is down with fever. I'll ride out as often as I can, but I can't be here constantly." "I'll stay," Adam said firmly, "and I'm sure some of the neighbors would be willing to take shifts." Dahlia felt a surge of gratitude for this community that had rallied around her. "Thank you, all of you." As the others left to make arrangements, Dahlia found herself alone with Adam for the first time since the fire. "You don't have to stay," she said softly. "This isn't your fight." Adam's gaze held her steadily. "It became my fight the moment your brothers threatened you," he hesitated. "Dahlia, there's something you should know. About me, about why I understand what you're facing. You told me about your father, the land that was stolen. There's more." Adam's voice was quiet but firm. "The men who arranged my father's murder and stole our land, they worked for the same company I believe is behind Reeves. The Southwestern Land Development Company." Dahlia stared at him, understanding dawning. "That's why you've been helping me." "This is personal for you." "It started that way," Adam admitted. "When I heard about a woman standing alone against her brothers and the railroad, I recognized the pattern. I wanted to help because I've seen what these people are capable of." His expression softened. "But it's become more than that, Dahlia. Much more." Before she could respond, the sound of approaching horses interrupted them. Through the window, Dahlia spotted Theodore and Frederick riding up, this time without Reeves. "Stay inside," Adam said, reaching for his gun belt. "No," Dahlia replied firmly. "This is my home and my fight." She picked up her father's shotgun. "We'll face them together." They stepped onto the porch as the brothers dismounted. Theodore's face was flushed with what might have been shame or anger. Frederick looked plainly miserable. "Come to admire your handiwork," Dahlia called out, gesturing toward the burned barn. "I didn't do this," Theodore said, his voice surprisingly subdued. "Neither did Frederick." "But you know who did," Adam countered. Theodore nodded reluctantly. "Reeves, he's not who I thought he was." "This wasn't supposed to happen." Frederick stepped forward. "We came to warn you, Dahlia. Reeves isn't just working for the railroad. He's working for men who don't care about legal proceedings or hearings." "The Southwestern Land Development Company," Adam said. Theodore's head snapped up. "How did you know?" "Because they've done this before," Adam replied coldly. "In Texas, in New Mexico territory. They find land they want, create legal complications, and if that doesn't work, they resort to violence." Dahlia studied her brothers' faces, seeing genuine fear there. "What changed, Theodore? Yesterday you were threatening me alongside Reeves." Theodore ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of their father that Dahlia felt an unexpected pang. "I thought it was just business pressure tactics to convince you to sell. But after the fire—" He shook his head. "I never wanted this, Dahlia, I swear it. It's true," Frederick added earnestly. "When we saw the barn burning, Theodore tried to stop Reeves. They nearly came to blows." "Why should I believe you now?" Dahlia demanded. "Because despite everything, you're still my sister," Theodore said quietly. "And Pa would never forgive me if I let anything happen to you." Adam studied him carefully. "If you're sincere, prove it. Withdraw your petition contesting the will." Theodore hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right. I'll do it. First thing tomorrow. And tell Sheriff Mills everything you know about Reeves and who he works for," Dahlia added. "That might not be enough," Frederick warned. "Reeves made it clear one way or another this land will be cleared for the railroad." "Then we'll be ready for him," Adam said firmly. As her brothers rode away, Dahlia felt a complex mixture of emotions: relief at their change of heart, lingering anger at their betrayal and fear of what Reeves might do next. "You believe them?" she asked Adam. "I think Theodore finally realized he's made a deal with the devil," Adam replied. "Whether that's enough to save us remains to be seen." The next 2 days passed in tense preparation. Word spread through Coyote Creek about the threat to Dahlia's ranch, and neighbors took turns keeping watch. Theodore, true to his word, withdrew his petition and gave Sheriff Mills a sworn statement about Reeves and his connection to the Southwestern Land Development Company. The night before the hearing, Dahlia sat on her porch with Adam, watching the sunset paint the valley in gold and crimson. Despite the beauty, she couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. "What happens after tomorrow?" she asked. "Even if Judge Harmon confirms my ownership, Reeves and his employers won't simply give up." "One problem at a time," Adam advised. "Once your legal right to the land is secure, we can deal with Reeves." He hesitated. "Dahlia, once this is settled, I've been thinking about your offer. To stay?" she asked, her heart quickening. "Yes, not just as a business partner." Adam turned to face her fully. "These past weeks, getting to know you, seeing your courage and determination, I've found something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" Dahlia asked softly. "A reason to stop drifting, a place that could be home." His hand found hers in the gathering darkness. "If you'll have me." Dahlia interlaced her fingers with his. "I think I've been waiting for you without knowing it." Adam Blackwell. The moment stretched between them, full of promise, until a shot shattered the night air. Adam pulled Dahlia to the floor of the porch as a bullet splintered the wood beside them. "Inside," he commanded, drawing his pistol. They scrambled through the door as more shots rang out from the darkness. Adam positioned himself at a window, peering cautiously through the curtains. "At least 3 of them," he reported, using the tree line for cover. Dahlia grabbed her shotgun and moved to another window. "Reeves," most likely, making his move before the hearing. A voice called out from the darkness. "Miss Evans, Mr. Blackwell, this property is now under the protection of the Southwestern Land Development Company. Surrender peacefully and you'll be allowed to leave unharmed." "That's Reeves," Adam confirmed grimly. "Protection," Dahlia called back angrily. "Is that what you call burning down my barn and shooting at my house?" "Unfortunate but necessary measures," Reeves replied. "The railroad's progress cannot be impeded by sentimentality. You have 5 minutes to decide." Adam turned to Dahlia. "There's a back way out of here, through the kitchen. If you can make it to the stable, take a horse and ride for town. Get Sheriff Mills." "I'm not leaving you alone against them," she protested. "Dahlia, please, I can hold them off, but I need to know you're safe." She met his gaze steadily. "This is my home, Adam, my fight. We stand together." Before he could argue further, the sound of approaching horses drew their attention. Through the window, they saw riders approaching from the direction of town, at least a dozen men, led by Sheriff Mills and, surprisingly, Theodore. "Reeves," the sheriff's voice boomed across the yard. "This is Sheriff Mills. You and your men are surrounded. Drop your weapons and come out with your hands up." A tense silence followed, broken by the sound of hurried movement in the trees. Adam risked a glance out the window. "They're making a run for it," he reported. "Heading east through the woods." "Let's go," Dahlia said, moving toward the door. Outside, they found Sheriff Mills organizing men to pursue Reeves and his companions. Theodore dismounted and approached them, his expression a mixture of relief and shame. "You all right, Dahlia?" he asked. She nodded, studying her brother. "How did you know to come?" "Frederick overheard Reeves planning the attack in town. He came to get me, and we went straight to the sheriff." Theodore removed his hat, turning it nervously in his hands. "I know it doesn't make up for everything, but I couldn't let them hurt you." Before Dahlia could respond, a rider galloped into the yard one of the men who'd gone after Reeves. "Sheriff, we've got them cornered at the East Ravine. They're putting up a fight." Sheriff Mills turned to Theodore. "Stay here with your sister, the rest of you with me." He galloped off with most of the men, leaving Dahlia, Adam, and Theodore standing in the yard. "You should go with them," Dahlia told Adam. "They might need help." Adam hesitated, clearly torn between staying to protect her and joining the pursuit. "I'll watch over her," Theodore promised. "Go." With a final glance at Dahlia, Adam mounted up and rode after the sheriff. Left alone with her brother, Dahlia felt the weight of all that had happened between them. "Why, Theodore? Why did it come to this?" Theodore sighed heavily. "Greed, pride, stupidity." He met her gaze directly. "I was in debt up to my eyes from gambling. When the railroad men approached me about buying the land, it seemed like the answer to everything. I never thought it would go this far. You were willing to steal my inheritance. I told myself it was fair that Pa had been wrong to leave everything to you." Theodore shook his head. "But I was wrong, Dahlia. You were the one who stayed, who loved this place like he did." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of gunfire in the distance, several shots in quick succession, then silence. "We should go inside," Theodore urged. "Just in case." They waited in tense silence as minutes stretched into an hour. Finally, the sound of returning riders brought them back outside. Sheriff Mills led the group, with Adam riding beside him. Behind them came several men escorting 3 prisoners with bound hands, Reeves among them. "It's over," Sheriff Mills announced as he dismounted. "Reeves and his men will stand trial for attempted murder, arson, and a list of other charges I'm still working on." Reeves glared at Dahlia as he was led past. "This isn't over, Miss Evans. The company doesn't give up what it wants." "Actually, it is over." Marcus Hayes stepped forward from among the riders. "I've already wired the territorial governor about the Southwestern Land Development Company's illegal activities. An investigation is being launched as we speak." Adam dismounted and moved to Dahlia's side. "Are you all right?" She nodded, relief washing over her. "I am now." The next morning, the hearing before Judge Harmon was brief and decisive. With Theodore's petition withdrawn and Marcus presenting evidence of the development company's intimidation tactics, the judge had no choice but to confirm Dahlia's ownership of the Evans homestead. "The last will and testament of Joseph Evans stands uncontested," Judge Harmon declared. "The property known as the Evans Ranch is hereby confirmed as the legal possession of Miss Dahlia Evans." As people filed out of the makeshift courtroom, Dahlia found herself surrounded by well-wishers and neighbors offering support. Theodore and Frederick approached cautiously. "Congratulations, sister," Theodore said awkwardly. "It's what Pa would have wanted." "What will you do now?" Dahlia asked. "Frederick and I are heading to California," Theodore replied. "Fresh start, honest work this time." He extended his hand. "I hope someday you can forgive us." Dahlia looked at her brother's flawed, misguided, but still family. "It will take time," she said honestly, "but we're family. The door is always open." As her brothers walked away, Adam appeared at her side. "How does it feel to be the official owner of the Evans Ranch?" "Overwhelming," she admitted. "There's so much to rebuild, to plan." "About that," Adam said, taking her hand, "I've been thinking about your offer of partnership in horse breeding. And," Dahlia's heart quickened, "I'd like to accept, with one condition." Adam's eyes held hers steadily. "That it's more than just a business arrangement." Dahlia smiled, squeezing his hand. "I was hoping you'd say that." 2 months later, the new barn stood completed, larger and sturdier than the original, built with the help of neighbors and even Theodore and Frederick, who had returned briefly to make amends before continuing to California. The horse breeding operation was taking shape, with Adam's expertise complementing Dahlia's determination. On a warm summer evening, they sat together on the porch of the Evans homestead, now their home, watching the sunset paint the valley in gold. Adam's arm rested comfortably around Dahlia's shoulders. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when I rode into Coyote Creek, I was still looking for something, justice maybe, or just a purpose after losing everything." "And did you find it?" Dahlia asked, leaning against him. Adam smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I found something better. I found a home, and someone to share it with." Dahlia turned in his arms, meeting his gaze. "I never thought I'd find someone who understood what this land means to me, who would fight for it the way I do." "Your father knew what he was doing when he left it to you," Adam said. "He saw in you what I see: courage, determination, and a heart as big as this valley." As the last light faded from the sky, Adam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small ring, simple but beautiful, a silver band set with a single pearl. "Dahlia Evans," he said softly, "I know it hasn't been long, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Will you marry me? Build this dream with me: horses, land, family, everything?" Tears welled in Dahlia's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Adam Blackwell. Yes to all of it." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Dahlia knew that her father would have approved. The land he'd loved would continue to flourish, cared for by people who understood its value beyond mere dollars. 1 year later, the Evans Blackwell Ranch hosted a celebration that brought together the entire community of Coyote Creek. Under a canopy of lanterns strung between newly planted trees, Dahlia and Adam welcomed the birth of their first child, a daughter they named Alina, after Dahlia's mother. Theodore and Frederick returned for the celebration, their relationship with their sister slowly healing. The railroad had ultimately been rerouted, thanks in part to Marcus Hayes' legal efforts exposing the Southwestern Land Development Company's corrupt practices. As evening fell, Adam found Dahlia standing on the hill overlooking their thriving ranch, the expanded house, the new barn, the corrals filled with quality horses that buyers were already traveling long distances to see. "Happy?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Dahlia leaned back against him, their daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms. "More than I ever thought possible." Below them, the valley stretched out in the golden light of sunset, the same land her father had cherished, that she had fought for, and that would now be her daughter's heritage. It had been worth every struggle, every moment of fear and uncertainty. "Your father would be proud," Adam said softly, "of all you've accomplished." "Of what we've accomplished," Dahlia corrected him. "This is our legacy now, yours, mine, and Alina's." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, they walked back down the hill toward the lights and laughter of their home, secure in the knowledge that what they had built together, both the ranch and their love, would endure long after they were gone. A testament to courage, determination, and the power of standing one's ground.